What's up, everybody?
Hello, hello.
Hello.
We are here.
We out here. You doing your thing. So predictable.
Of course.
So we back in the house. It's been a couple weeks
Yeah.
or so since our last one, which we just try to come do stuff as we inspire, right?
Right.
So today we just gonna go ahead and get into it. We've been obviously sitting around, not just sitting around, but watching different YouTube videos on different things. There's a lot of stuff going on as far as the continent is concerned. More so politically speaking.
Right.
With what's going on. See a lot of content out there about Traore,
Yes.
in Burkina Faso, and
Yeah.
all the turmoil and everything and things that they're dealing with there.
Right.
Which we're not going to get into like the political discussion and all that kind of stuff. Also, the whole thing with the scammers
Yeah.
on the continent over there, or the accusations of different scams that are being run by people, and all the fighting that's taking place. And I think that's kind of a dangerous thing.
It is.
Because the internet, it can be very deceiving, deceptive, if you will.
Yeah.
And that's the drawback with that. You take a little bit of truth and you sprinkle a lot of lies around it, but you
exaggerate it.
And before you know it, things get way out of hand with people.
Yeah.
And before you know it, you got people fighting amongst themselves, brothers and sisters fighting each other senselessly about stuff.
Which clearly is the case with that.
Yeah, and personally, I think there are larger motives. I think because of the time that we are in, it's no secret that, things are happening on the continent as they are for a reason. That means connections are happening.
Right.
If we don't think that the larger powers are seeing this sort of thing taking place and are doing what they can, and you can kind of throw to the Burkina Faso situation even, right? Because we know how governments and larger powers have operated throughout history with sowing instability,
right.
in certain places to get them fighting so that then they can hover above and exploit, right?
Exactly.
It's no different, in my opinion, in this case. But again, we're not gonna turn a channel into a political type of thing. There's enough of that going on. Our thing is, of course we're very conscious of things, and regardless of whether or not we, come out and use our particular platform to discuss those aspects, is more so a strategic thing, I think, on our part, and we reserve, certain things to a specific space where we can be most effective, and not, compromise, if you will, the overall effort and stuff. It's bigger than that, because we're seeing the bigger picture, and our aim is to do what we can to help others see that bigger picture as well, and to push through those obstacles, because we obviously want to get to where we want to get as a people, on our terms. And so I think we have to be smarter.
Yeah.
We have to be smarter. We have to operate with a high level of emotional intelligence with these things. So as we see these things, when they surface, we have to key on them and then work tactically around those situations, navigating them, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, we're going to talk about for us and our journey, right? Our particular approach that we use, and we've alluded to this many times before, and I think it's no secret to people who have subscribed to us and just kind of followed us. Our particular approach is one that's a little bit different from others that they get to see doing all the cool stuff. Here's me at this event, I'm in the streets doing this, or I'm sampling this food at this restaurant.
Right. We don't do that.
So,
sometimes
it's not our thing.
Yeah,
right?
It's not the main thing.
We have a different aim, right? Because for us, it's more. I would like to think that, and this is not to say that other people are not, or they have not been, but I'm just speaking in terms of us. We approach it with a level of seriousness and, based upon our particular strategy and where we see ourselves, down the line.
Process.
Right, exactly. And so with that, education is very important to us, right? And so I think, it's twofold, with what we discussed today, is kind of like, on the one hand, getting the perspective of some of the family over there,
right?
Who may have some information and can educate us, whether it be in the comment section, and which we do encourage people to participate in the comment section. Most of the time, I would say about 99.999% of the time, it's me responding to you all.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure they pretty much figure out
right.
anyway. But it's something that I really enjoy because, we get that information and then we kick it around amongst ourselves, and it just becomes a growth thing for us as we seek to learn, because we're serious about what it is that we're looking to do.
Right.
And so we want to be armed with every bit of knowledge that we get from the various sources and stuff. So that's very important. Then also, along with that, for people like us, who may have seen our particular approach and journey, right? And they may say, you know what, I like the way that they did things. They didn't just hop out of the frying pan and into the fire, right?
Yeah.
Because of our approach.
Being very methodical in the approach that we're taking.
Right, and it may make sense for them to do the same if they, have those particular means, or if they're the same mindset or whatever, because obviously we do see a certain level of security in our particular approach. And it just works for our particular life and how we manage things, right? So, that's what this whole concept of playing both sides of the chessboard and the thumbnail kind of shows that sort of thing. And then I have a subtitle, playing both sides of the chessboard. Yeah, that's what's up.
Yes.
Or is it?
Yeah. Right.
That's what's up, right?
Yes.
As in value added tax, because that's something that's just kind of been in the forefront of our minds over the past couple months.
Yeah.
And so we really just want to kind of share some information around that as far as how it applies to us and our experience there, right? And how we view things, right? And as far as, again, back to other people who may follow our particular path, these are things that you need to be concerned about as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because for us, it's playing both sides of the chessboard, because we have not chosen to jump out of the frying pan and into the fire, right? Per se. And so, with our approach, it does require certain things of us, and it comes right down to playing both sides of the chessboard, right? So we got a foot in both puddles. We got a foot here in the United States, living,
and in South Africa.
And so we have to manage our business on both sides. And by business, I mean, for the most part, from the financial perspective.
Yes.
So our lifestyles, we have had to adjust, and we have adjusted our lifestyles and how we do things. It's been many years now.
Yeah.
And it is, we're at least a few years in with this whole thing with, lifestyle adjustments that we've made as far as how we choose to live here, and how we, manage our finances and, those types of things, so that we can make that happen over there and keep that situation afloat and solid and moving forward. So we have two wheels turning, right?
Yeah.
And so that's what the whole concept of playing both sides of the chessboard is, because it is a chess game. You got to be thinking about stuff that you do here, how it's going to impact over there, and the same over there.
Yeah.
And beyond just, the money aspect, you're talking family, you're talking career. There are so many different moving parts that you have to choreograph, if you will, right, to make sure that everything ultimately gets you to your long-term goal. So for those of us who might come behind us, or those who are, in the moment right now where they're contemplating these same things, is something for them to think about. So let's talk about that. As I said, playing both sides, for the most part, I see it is two key areas, right? One being finances, which we just talked about, and another thing is we kind of started off alluding to it when we did the introduction or whatever, talking about the broader geopolitical situation, right? So that's being in tune to policy moves that are made, on that side. And we're talking particularly, and it could apply, I assume, to any country that you would move to, whether it be on the African continent or elsewhere, right? Because each country is going to have its nuance because it's a sovereign nation, right? But we particularly, speak in terms of South Africa. And so, being in tune with with those policies and stuff. So you have to take an interest with what's going on there, because ultimately, what they decide to do there, and while we may not be citizens there, right? We may not be residents there at this point. We just individuals at this point who are still U.S. citizens, who own property there, have a residence there.
But even if you're visiting there or you decide to move there, that's still information that is critical that you need to know what the policies are, what the laws are,
right?
So that you're aware when you're there in the country.
Yeah, I mean, because if you're doing business, right?
Yeah.
If you're invested into that country, as we are in South Africa, you have to abide by those laws, and those policies impact you. So, you know, it is about, you know, being in tune and taking an interest, you know, when they had the elections, you know, the nationwide elections, you know, following that, you know. So yeah, that just comes along with the territory, right?
Yeah.
So that's responsibility. So be aware of that as well. Let's see. And again, that's for anyone who chooses to try to establish ties with the continent.
Yeah.
So, having said that, I think it was probably about a couple months ago that, and I always, whenever we're over there on the ground, you always see VAT, and you know, even traveling to other countries, there's always a VAT, typically a value added tax, right? And so South Africa is no different. And so we're normally used to seeing, whenever we sit down at a restaurant and eat or anything else that we buy, we see that VAT included. And so previously, I've never really taken as much of an interest in it.
I never paid attention
because
to
it's
it
just
at
a tax to us.
Yeah.
We got taxes here.
Exactly.
We have
That's
sales taxes. We'll have city taxes and county taxes, hospitality taxes. If you're staying at a hotel, they'll tack on, and before you know it, you got all these taxes that are piled up on. You got a list of taxes on your receipt. It's like you got sales tax, you got the hospitality tax, you got this tax, city tax. You know, so it's just good. So to us, it's like to see VAT is like, okay, VAT is gonna that. How much is my tip gonna be? You know, and we pay that, and we're done.
Right.
So I don't really think about it, but we started to get all these emails from the different people that we do business with, whether it be, you know, whether it be iSwitch, you know, for our prepaid meters, for our utilities there, for electricity and water, goes through iSwitch Outsurance.
Yeah, the Outsurance.
You know, for our insurance for our home there. Started getting notifications from F&B.
Yep.
You know, all this stuff. And I'm like, what is this going on with this VAT?
Yeah,
read
it and was like,
it looks it's going up.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's like VAT tax is going up.
Right.
And this was probably back in April, I think it was. I started getting notifications, and so it affects things. Like everything that you consume over there, and that's what it is. It's a consumption tax, right? So, and I actually just kind of want to get the specifics around, you know, what a VAT was, and so I just kind of opened up a Chat GPT session, right? Because I wanted to have a better idea. Even though I know what it is, I wanted to hear formally what it was and to get some background on the South African VAT.
Yeah.
Because it's got to be a big deal if I'm getting all these. We're getting all these emails from the vendors that we, you know, have agreements with and obligations to.
Going up 15%,
paying
14,
bills.
15. I was like, what?
For paying bills over there. I'm like, okay, our bills are getting ready to go up.
Right.
So that goes back to what we were saying earlier, right? So you really have, and that's the importance of this, right? If you're going into that situation, you got to know, because what we do with our stuff is it's pretty much set on automatic. You know, all of our deductions happen from our South African bank account every month, whether it be our levies, whether it be our taxes on our property.
And we have to set that up for the exact amount to come out.
Right.
So if we didn't pay attention to the notifications that were coming about the increase, and it, you know, and if we didn't go and make that change, then that means you're not paying your property taxes or whatever bills on time,
right?
Because you're
delinquent.
Yes.
And so that can cause you some problems. And so that's why it's very important that we are always in tune to our business over there.
And especially if you're in the United States and you have property over there, because especially if you're not over there a whole lot, that's why you really got to pay attention to those notifications.
Yeah, exactly. And not just blow them off.
Right.
Because you can it's easy to do that sometimes, because it's like, because I think in terms of like, we got this taken care of. It's like, you know, Outsurance is paid up for the year. Ain't got to worry about it. I paid the premiums for the whole year, or you know, you got enough money in the account for the utilities, prepaid meters, because we're only, when we're there, we're using it. But just make sure you got enough money there to cover it for however many months or the next year if you need to.
Exactly.
Or in case things melt down over here and the financial system becomes a problem with getting money over there into our account.
Right.
That's another thing we have to plan for. You have to think geopolitically. What can go wrong in your country? Bad, right? What bad can go wrong in your country that can cause a problem with you getting your money over there to take care of your business?
Yes.
So there's
could be some real
there's a lot of stuff that's in play with us, and so we're always strategizing and thinking through that stuff, right? You know, but at the end of the day, we know our bills were going up, and so we were on top of it and everything, and so we were like, okay, how does it impact us? And so for me to get a better, and for us to get a better understanding, I think that was a good thing. And so, you know, I went out and I learned that that the VAT pretty much it's a nationwide thing, right? And so the VAT succeeded or took the place of or replaced the sales tax. That was a nationwide sales tax. And this would have been around what did they say? Was it?
Did you say it was 94?
It was. I can't remember if it was 2000. If it was 2000 or 1990. I forget the actual date, but at some point they took and replaced the. When I first read it, I said, you know what, this was a few years before apartheid ended, so maybe it was 1990, and I was thinking leading up to the official end of apartheid, that they wiped out, they did away with the sales tax, and I don't know if they were preparing for that shift. I don't know if it was tied to that. You know, South African family, you can educate us on that, but I'm just trying to rehash in my mind. But at some point, it replaced that tax, and it just became a nationwide consumption tax. So in other words, what you consume, what you buy, whether it be eating out of the restaurant, whether it be buying a car, whether it be, you know, like I said, paying your levies, paying your taxes, you get charged for that consumption, and it's 15. It was 15%.
Right.
Apparently, they changed it in 2018. It was previously 14%, and they raised it by 8%, which I didn't. For me personally, I didn't see it as being. I'm like 1% in
I was like, oh, that's not bad.
7 years, 1%. But again, we also think in terms of the people there. Okay, it's a different situation for us being outsiders looking in, right?
Right.
You know, so it makes sense though.
Yeah.
But the one thing, so anyway, and that's what they did. So they had a nationwide consumption tax, and you consume stuff, you pay it, and that's it, right? So now also from what I read, they can, I guess a vendor or a business could choose to collect the tax or not collect the tax, and I was still kind of unclear on. So you know, again, feel free to let us know. I'm not sure if a business, like say if I have a business, if I open a store and I sell, let's just say mugs, right? Like the Mel and Me, the podcast mug, which I'm sipping from right here. I'm not selling these yet. We just have like these ones that we have, but who knows? We might one day market the Mel and Me, the podcast mug.
Indeed.
So if I'm a business and I sell mugs and other knickknacks or whatever, I guess I could choose to charge a VAT tax. Ultimately, I'm going to have to pay that tax to the government anyway, to SARS, South African Revenue Service.
Right.
But I got the idea that they could choose to not charge for the customer. But I would think, as I learned with in the case of property developers, that, and it makes sense that it would work that way, they're just going to make it transparent anyway. So you're going to pay that tax, whether you know it or not.
Right.
They'll just price the item to take that
higher
into account. Right. Price the item a little bit higher to take into account, because they're still going to pay that VAT tax to the South African Revenue Service.
Right.
So, but that's what it is. So I wanted to just kind of learn what a VAT was, and so. One thing. So I'll just read this real quick, because I wanted to find out why. I wanted to figure out why this was such a big deal, because there was a lot of chatter on the internet, on YouTube about it and stuff, and other forums that I was in. I think it was Reddit. I was on. They were talking about the VAT increase and stuff, and people were like, "Man, this is really gonna hurt us" and stuff like that. You know, and I was trying to figure out like what is the big deal about this? Why is it such a big deal to the people there, right? And so I asked the question, right? So and this is just what ChatGPT spit back out to me. So I'll just read this real quick. The funds raised through VAT are crucial for the administration of society. They finance a wide range of public services, including education, healthcare, social grants such as pensions and child support grants, policing, and infrastructure development. Mm-hmm. That's all key. VAT revenue also supports programs aimed at reducing inequality and improving living standards, in line with South Africa's constitutional commitment to build a more just and equitable society. So that goes back to that Constitution of 1994, I'm assuming they're referring to. So here's the thing right here. It says, critics argue that VAT is regressive, disproportionately affecting poorer citizens who spend a greater percentage of their income on taxed goods and services. Efforts to mitigate this include the expansion of the zero-rated list and targeted social spending funded by VAT revenue. Overall, VAT plays a central role in South Africa's public finances, balancing efficiency in collection with social policy considerations. So then, what that says to us is that VAT tax
paying for a lot of different services.
A lot of key stuff.
And right. What I keyed in on, especially is with the social services part, that money is critical if they're using it for that to help families. It could be, if you, like for here in the States, the government assistance would be like if you need to get food stamps to pay for food or to help pay for child care. So obviously maybe call something different there. But that's critical when you depend on that and you need that to help subsidize if you have to pay child care for your child, or if you have to pay before and after school care, for your child. And then the infrastructure part is another one that was real big that I keyed in on too as well. So it was very interesting to me. To know that money, so it was at that point that I understood the importance of it, because that's a lot of different services that it's paying for.
Exactly, and so that's going to be a key in a few minutes when we get to that point, when we wrap up. So we know what a VAT is. We know that, or we learned that the figure that was given to me was that the VAT tax comprises about 25% of SARS revenue over there. So about a quarter of their revenue, and that's going to go toward all those different things that we just named. So that's a big thing. So, having said that, and I also think in terms of to go back when we bought our place over there, I remember, and I see a lot of times advertised when you're looking for real estate property to purchase over there or whatever, you'll see this no VAT, no transfer.
Yes.
Right,
yes,
and so
I did see that.
Apparently they don't coexist. So if you pay one, you don't pay the other. So there are certain situations where if you're like a personal owner selling a property, I don't think the property exchange would not be subject to a VAT tax.
Oh, okay.
Right. So you would just pay the transfer fee.
Oh, okay.
Okay, which is like the process that we went through with the conveyance attorneys and stuff like that when they transferred the property, when they had to go register it with the the municipality or the province or whatever.
Okay.
I mean, that's So but otherwise, if you were in a situation where you had to cover that VAT, then you would, I guess, have to price your property to account for that VAT tax and any increases, right?
Yes.
New developers, when you're buying into a new community like we did, they pay VAT to the government. However, the VAT they don't charge you an outright VAT, and that's why when we bought our place, they were able to advertise because I looked at it, I was like, oh, that's cool, no VAT tax transfer, because I know VAT is a tax, right? So I'm like, oh, no VAT. And they also waived the transfer fee for us. Yeah, right?
I remember that.
So we had no VAT and no transfer when we bought our place. But then I learned, and I was not surprised, that the VAT was just included in the price. They just priced the home. Right? So they probably we probably paid that 15%, if not more, that they priced into the home that they sold us, right? So and that's fine. That's just business. That's the way it works. Again, making it transparent to the customer or whatever. At the end of the day, corporations are going to get their money.
Believe it. But didn't you say that that it was reversed? So is it going to be still the 14%? And it's not going to move to the 15%?
Right. So what I gather, if it was 14%, which is the last time they raised it.
Right.
If it's not going to go to 15%, that means any changes that they made, because I thought that I saw when I looked at our iSwitch account, I thought that I saw, because remember I saw that we had a charge that was not normally there. I was like, oh, it looks like we're going to be paying a minimum bill per month, whether we're using electricity or not.
Yeah, you was mentioning
so I'll go back and check it again and see what it's going to look like. But ultimately, when they sent out the emails the other day, it said that they're going to roll back anything that's already been applied. So I guess if they've charged you money or billed you money or whatever, for whatever, fee, whether it be bank fees or whatever, that they would then credit that back to you. I'll just kind of give it another month and see how things go. But so they're not going to go forward with it, and I'm sure the brothers and sisters over there are very happy about that, and so great. The one thing that does bring to mind though, is so when we go back to what the VAT does, right? All the different services that it provides, and again, Melanie is a social worker by profession, so that's the terms that she thinks in. So, I think about when we are driving, say, in certain areas of CBD, in Johannesburg, let's just say around Hillbrow areas down there, right? Yeah. And you see the streets. Yeah. Right? Yeah. You kind of wonder, there's obviously a trade-off, because if taxes are funding those initiatives, right?
And then if they're not going to do the increase, then those initiatives are not going to be funded. They're going to suffer.
And they're going to find ways to cut from that, because that's another thing that I learned, is that if that tax doesn't go up, then they have to find ways to pull that money back. No different than here in the United States. That's same thing. It's on a different level, but they do the same thing. They scale back and they pull from a lot of times critical programs that people need.
I mean, that's something that, yes. Infrastructure is going to be first and foremost, because that is most expensive, followed by different benefits and services that's provided to needy families, for, like I say, food, supplemental food income, and educational expenses. Those are the first to go. Okay. Those are the first to go.
Yeah, so then what I wonder is how our brothers and sisters over there, how they process those things and how they reconcile that thing. And so I invite anyone with an informed perspective or opinion on it to chime in on the comments. And also don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel. See, I always forget that because we just want to get to it. We try not to make it a big deal to where we're just chasing subscribers and looking for clicks and stuff like that. We want people to be just genuinely tuned in to us because they see value in what it is. Although we're about 935 subscribers, so we're almost making our way to 1,000. Hopefully we'll get there soon or whatever. But like, share, subscribe, and more importantly, take something and contribute, to the conversation. Right. So what was I saying?
You were saying, as far as you was wondering, as far as the people.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, how is it that they reconcile that over there, knowing that it funds things like if you have complaints about the streets or certain area, your part of town that's you feel might be neglected, what are the contributing factors toward that? And we get into politics and all that kind of stuff, which again we have really no opinion on that because we're not citizens there, right? So we really have, although we are impacted, that's the way we have to approach it. Things is just understanding, that we're impacted by it, and so would anyone else going into that situation, let's say, from this side or whatever, over there. And that's something that we need to understand, that, we have to pay these same taxes, right? But we're not citizens, but we will also see that same impact when we're on the ground there, whether it's us going back and forth over there or once we decide to settle there. These are things that we need to know. So yeah. So I do wonder though, how important is it, or how does it impact you? Do you really, is it to a point where you really will feel that difference of not having that 1% tax increase.
Coming out of your weekly or biweekly or monthly
whatever period this is. And again, we're not saying you shouldn't be concerned about it, because I was actually pretty amazed because things seem to move very quickly. I mean, it was, from what I understand, I guess the authority, the responsible authority met around this thing back in March, and that's when they determined that they were going to have the increase. April second week of April, we started receiving those notifications, and then only a few days ago, last week, they were like, "Nah, we're rolling this back." And so you're talking, that's a short period of time. That's efficiency right there.
Yeah, and that's what I was really impressed with. Because to me, that speaks volumes with you, the people, speaking, saying, this is what we want. So that was actually, I mean, I love to see that. I wish we would have more of that here.
I wonder how much direct action, do you all, because for us over here, they always talk about, call your congressman's office.
You can do that, and it means nothing.
You go to a voicemail.
They're not doing anything.
Yeah, so I just wonder what dynamic took place over there to get them to take that action, in such a broad, sweeping action. And maybe it's just because that's the way they do things over there on a national level. And I don't know, but I was very curious about that.
That also speaks to the government listening to the people.
I guess you can say that as well.
And that's important, because it's you, the people, that's voting them into office, and so, but I see it as a catch-22.
It is, in a sense. Yeah.
Just, either, hey, this is really going to impact me financially if I have to, that 1% increase, I barely, just making it, for my monthly expenses now, versus, okay, but I do need to see this road fixed that's, in my neighborhood, or I need help with, my kids going to school, or before and after care, or healthcare, right. Those type of things. So I can only imagine that's tough, to be in that type of situation, and then to have to make that type of decision, your money versus these services, because you need both.
Right. And what do you do, or what can be done to revisit the whole situation and kind of get the best of both worlds? Right. What types of things can be done? Right. And so, as someone, investing into that society, it's like, you kind of, I mean, we're just one person, right? Right. two people. Exactly. One entity, if you will. So it's like my little extra few rand ain't gonna make a difference, right? But I just try to, I guess, just blow the whole concept out, scale it out, as a society with investment. Right. Just speak in terms of general investment. Does that improve things with having outside investment? I guess that's a concept I'm reaching for. Yeah. Outside investment that feeds into that system as well. But then again, that gets back into the political thing, which I will leave to the people over there, because we know what happens once the money gets into the system. Right. Now it's the responsibility of the government to allocate it appropriately and exercise the fiduciary responsibility with it. Right. But that's it. So we wanted to just kind of talk about that real quick and get some perspectives on it. I'll get a chance to, hopefully in the near future, coming up here soon, I'll be on the ground back over there coming up, probably just rolling solo. We'll get Mel back over because we have different things going on and stuff, and so right now it makes sense. And then just to totally keep it real with these airline fares and stuff. So we'll go over the next time. Plus, I need to get over. Get my man, get the good brother Moosey his gift.
Oh,
shouts out to Moosey if you're out
there. Yes, shouts out to Moosey.
So we'll be.
I forgot about that.
So we'll be seeing you. We'll be seeing you soon, brother. Yes. To make sure you get your gift. Yes. But I'll let you know. I'll be in contact with you on the back channels with that. So but I'm looking forward to in the near future, my possibly heading over and checking on things and taking care of some business. Yeah. Which we're always taking care of some level of business over there. Is even if it's just planting one seed of progress. Because
it's necessary.
Necessary because we want to make sure that our situation is solid, and that we are in the process, that we're connecting with people on the genuine level, and that we're learning on the genuine level. And that's just pretty much it. So it just requires a level of patience with that.
Yes.
And so with that, I guess we can just take and wrap it up. Had a chance to come out here. We didn't take up too much time. Hopefully we were effective. Yes. And man, always appreciate y'all tuning in to us. Yeah. And hopefully we can continue to come up with topics that are going to be useful and help us all grow and learn something from each other.
Right. That's important.
That's important. So that's what's important to us, man.
Absolutely.
And as we always like to say, at the end of the day, it's
Mel
and your boy me. And this has been the podcast. Y'all take care.